This is your digital first Pan-African news network, TOS Television. I am Mesafel Ajinomo, and you're watching TOS News Update. The Senate this Wednesday confirmed the appointment of Harun Nababa as the Controller General of the Nigerian Correctional Service. This action came on the heel of the report by the Senate Committee on Interior, which screened Nababa under the chairmanship of Senator Kashim Shettima. President Muhammadu Buhari, in a letter on February 23rd, asked the Senate to confirm the appointment of Nababa as the CG of the NTS. The President directive, which was contained in the letter, was read at plenary by the Senate President Ahmed Lawan. And a federal high court sitting in Lagos has ordered an extension of the deadline to link national identification number with SIM by 2 months, effective from Tuesday, March 23, 2021. Justice Maureen Oyetenu ordered the extension on Tuesday while ruling on a lawsuit filed by the former Vice President of the Nigerian Bar Association, NBA. Monday, Ubani filed a lawsuit against the federal government, Attorney General of the Federation, Nigerian Communications Commission, and Minister of Communication and Digital Economy, Issa Pentami. In December 2020, Ubani filed a suit over the initial deadline of December 30th, 2020, set for NIN SIM registration. He argued that the initial 2 weeks given by the federal government to telecommunication operators for NIN registration will infringe on the fundamental human right of Nigerians and expose them to COVID-19. As the call for gender inclusivity increases, women have also begun amplifying the call for an increased number of their counterparts in politics and government. This, among others, was the focus of the meeting on the 65th session on the United Nations status of women. TOS TV correspondent Sagir Ibrahim tells us more.
Statistics has shown that the national average of women's participation in politics in Nigeria is less than 7% in both elective and appointive positions. This is far below the global average of 22.5%, Africa's regional average of 23.4%, and the West African sub-regional average of 15%. Women have been perceived as second-class citizens, not just by men alone, but also by women themselves who do not believe that they have the capacity to lead politically. To stem this tide, however, the United Nations UN Women, in collaboration with women stakeholders drawn from the government, legislature, and civil society, are championing the cause for the involvement of more women in public life and their equal participation in decision-making, as well as ending violence against women.
Civil society has a role to play in terms of advocating to key stakeholders, decision makers like members of the National Assembly, the executive government, and also reaching out to political parties to ensure that political parties open up the space for women and play politics in such a way that it will be all-inclusive.
In terms of 2023 and encouraging young women, I think the issue of violence is actually quite important, and we need to raise the profile of having that conversation, because a lot of women are worried, and I've heard stories from women who've gone before them who've had to face violence, had to deal with threats, and they're not sure how they're going to handle that. And I think we can't just give them information to say that we went through it, you'll be fine if you go through it.
The stakeholders, who spoke during a meeting on the 65th session of the United Nations Commission on the Status of Women, organized by the UN Women, pledged to show support for more women who intend to vie for elective positions.
There are two critical things that are ongoing now, and that's the amendment of the party constitutions and the amendment of the Nigerian Constitution. Until we get it right, all other things to get more women in the National Assembly will be a futile effort.
Mobilize and encourage, especially young women, to register as voters, not only register as voters, but to also actively engage in politics, by also being political party members so that they can start building themselves early on now. They don't have to wait till 10 years from now, 5 years from now, before they can engage.
They also called for a need to educate women at a young age on the importance of political participation.
Maybe we need to revisit some of the way we communicate these issues. One, the issue of quotas. When you talk to the male leaders, they keep saying, "Oh, if you give 30% to the women, then it's not fair to the men," and then they compete with us on the other 70%. And my initial response was, then why don't we all have 30-30 locked? And then you compete over 40% of the votes. That removes this idea that the quotas are only for men.
We still have people at the grassroots who still believe that women belong to the kitchen and should not run for political office. And we have CSOs that work in the grassroots. So they will play a critical role in trying to mobilize people at the grassroots and also try to change those negative stereotypes of women in leadership.
They, however, called on other stakeholders, including the government, to play its part in ensuring that women's voices are amplified and more women participate in politics and governance. Sagi.
The federal government has said that it will step up its action plan towards the detection and treatment of the tuberculosis disease. The Minister of Health, who was represented by the Minister of State for Health, Olorunmimbe Mamora, said this during the launch of the Unified National TB campaign, as well as the advocacy, communication and social mobilization guidelines in Abuja. The minister noted that Nigeria has stepped up its TB response in line with the commitment made by President Muhammadu Buhari to end tuberculosis at the first ever United Nations high-level meeting on tuberculosis in September 2018. He, however, added that despite the successes gained in the fight against the disease, more stakeholders need to come on board to attain a tuberculosis-free Nigeria.
Nigeria is also on the list of the 14 countries with the triple burden of tuberculosis. In furtherance to our robust public-private mixed engagement plan, we have now scaled up to all states. This has demonstrated incremental value to TB notification from 12% private sector contribution in 2018 to as high as 45% in some states.
Notwithstanding these challenges, we have made remarkable progress in our TB control efforts since inception of the National Tuberculosis and Leprosy Control Program in 1989. This progress is, however, not without the support of our esteemed partners. One key area of success for the NTBLCP program is on rapid expansion of TB preventive, diagnostic, and treatment services to both facilities and communities across the country.
It is on record that Nigeria recorded a 50% increase in TB case notification in 2020, despite the COVID-19 pandemic. Tuberculosis is one of the 10 causes of death worldwide, and the leading cause of death for single infection agent. For example, HIV is above TB. Globally, there are an estimate of 10 million people in TB in 2019, with Nigeria as 7 and 7 other countries among Nigeria account for the 2/3 of the global total population in TB cases.
The Association of Bureau d'Echange Operators of Nigeria has demanded for the immediate release of their members who were allegedly arrested and detained by the Department of State Security Services. Counsel to the APCON, Rilwan Idris, who made the demand while addressing journalists in Abuja, called on the DSS to immediately release his client, adding that their arrest and detention is illegal. He noted that a total of 26 APCON operators who were invited for questioning from their bases in Kano, Yola, Sokoto, Mina and Lagos 2 weeks ago are yet to be charged to court, which is a breach of their fundamental human right. He added that although they had written a letter to the DSS to confirm the whereabouts of the detained members, they were yet to get a response and all efforts to reach them had remained futile. This is your digital first Pan-African News Network, TOS Television, and you are watching TOS News Update. When we return, more news this day. Welcome back. The Clean Foundation, in collaboration with the National Human Rights Commission, during stakeholders' dialogue with the theme, Crisis of Missing Persons, Taking Stock and Charting Way Forward, at a Zoom meeting said it has drawn up strategies targeted at ending the challenges of missing persons in Africa and Nigeria in particular. The Executive Director of Clean Foundation, Benson Olubo, said the meeting focuses at exposing challenges of missing persons in Nigeria and the application of advanced technology at improving the numerous challenges that missing persons are faced with.
In his opening remarks, the Executive Director of Clean Foundation, Benson Olubo, said Nigeria has more than 90% caseload of missing persons in Africa as a result of the Boko Haram insurgency in the northeastern part of the country and other related cases of insecurity.
This webinar aims to tackle the problems of disappeared people in Nigeria from a multidimensional approach, and it addresses the pitfalls of legal processes, the ways in which the families, non-profit organizations and collectives work towards finding the truth. This webinar will offer an opportunity to those involved in the plights of families looking for their loved ones to tackle the strengths and weaknesses that Nigerian law and Nigerian legal systems have in investigating, prosecuting, and adjudicating these cases.
Panelists at the meeting shared their concerns on the challenges of missing persons in the country and charted way forward on finding
whereabouts of their loved ones. The Commission has been working assiduously to ensure that missing persons are properly documented and that information on their fate can be obtained and made known to their loved ones where possible.
In Mexico, there are more than 79,000 people that are missing since 2006. There are 275 dead. These are often at the hands of powerful drug cartels and their allies, and very much differently from Nigeria, there are also often the involvement of armed forces and in some cases police as well. Mexico has addressed the issue of the disappeared by promulgating a law on enforced disappearances in 2017. The implementation of this law began in 2019 with the establishment of a national search commission.
It will grow in an organic sort of way. So when we do our trainings, we make explicit efforts to include community members and make them feel welcomed, make sure that their concerns about the technology are addressed so that sustainable community of practice is something that we hope will develop. And I'll end it with that.
The first step is for citizens in Nigeria to hold the government accountable to implement a legislation where all this database, centralized database can be put into place.
The stakeholders are therefore soliciting cooperation of well-meaning Nigerians, key stakeholders, government at all levels, security agencies to come together and find a lasting solution to the plight of missing persons in Africa with Nigeria in focus. Rose Audu, reporting for TOS News, Abuja.
The Nigerian Meteorological Agency has raised alarm that water level across the world ocean, including the one along the coastal belt of Nigeria, has been rising due to changing climate. The Director General, CEO of NIMET, Professor Mansur Bako Murtazu, told newsmen in Abuja in commemoration of World Meteorological Day, said the implication is increasing danger of coastal erosions, storm surges, stronger ocean waves and swells exacerbated by global temperature increase. He explained that the theme of this year's WMD is the ocean, our climate and weather. The science of weather and climate is never complete without adequate knowledge and reference to the ocean. And now to news across Africa. A high court in Rwanda has decided to continue with the terrorism trial of a man portrayed as a hero in a 2004 Hollywood movie about the Rwandan genocide. Earlier this month, Paul Rusesabagina said he would not appear in court again as he did not expect justice. On Wednesday, the court said the trial would continue even if he would not appear without valid reasons. The judge and Rusesabagina still had a right to reappear in court before the trial is concluded. And in Uganda, 18 men who were believed to have been held by Uganda's security services have been freed and allowed to return to their villages. The men were arrested in the run-up to the elections in January and said they did not know where they were held. It is believed that hundreds of opposition activists and campaigners from across the country were picked up during the election campaign. The government admits it is holding more than 200 people on charges related to violent acts during the elections, but many still remain unaccounted for and are believed to be still held in the hands of the security services. After their release, some of the men told BBC that they had been dumped by security services in different parts of Kyotera district south of Kampala late on Monday night. One of the men, John Kiwanuka, was thought to be dead as a significant amount of blood was found in his bedroom after his arrest in January. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed confirmed for the first time on Tuesday in a wide-ranging speech to Parliament that troops from neighboring Eritrea entered the northern Tigray region during the conflict that broke out 5 months ago, suggesting they may have been involved in abuses against civilians. The government of both Eritrea and Ethiopia repeatedly denied Eritrea's involvement in the war, despite reports from rights groups which documented the killings of hundreds of civilians by Eritrean soldiers in the holy city of Axum. He also acknowledged for the first time that atrocities like rape had been committed during the fighting and promised perpetrators would be punished. You're still watching TOS Television News Update. When we return, we'll bring you stories from across Africa. Do stay. You're welcome back. And now to Kenya, where authorities have given the UN Refugee Agency a 14-day ultimatum to close one of the world's largest refugee camps, local newspaper report quoting officials. The government has threatened to forcibly repatriate Somali refugees living at the Dadaab camp to the border if the deadline elapses, the newspaper report. It also wants UNHCR to shut down the Kakuna camp in the northwest. Kenya is citing national security threat posed by some of the refugees that it says are linked to the Somalia-based militant group Al-Shabaab. And German Chancellor Angela Merkel has rescinded her earlier orders to impose a strict lockdown in the country over the Easter holiday. Merkel says the planned 5-day lockdown was a mistake. The U-turn came after a hastily arranged crisis meeting over a video conference on Wednesday with Germany's 16 state governors who are responsible for imposing and lifting restrictions. The German leaders had previously agreed that almost all shops were to be closed from April 1st to 5th, with only grocers allowed to open on Saturday, April 3rd. And hundreds of protesters detained for protesting last month's military takeover have been freed by Myanmar's junta on Wednesday in the commercial hub Yangon. There were 360 men and 268 women. Aung San Suu Kyi, the ousted prime minister, was due to have a court hearing on Wednesday in Naypyidaw, the city's capital, on account of criminal charges which could end her political career, but her lawyers said the hearing had been adjourned to the 1st of April because of problems with video conferencing caused by a junta-imposed internet shutdown. Meanwhile, Myanmar security forces shot dead a 7-year-old girl in the city of Mandalay on Tuesday, the youngest victim yet in the military's bloody crackdown on civilian opposition to the February coup. The young girl was killed in her home during a military raid, according to advocacy group Assistance Association for Political Prisoners. 6 boats with 183 migrants on board reached the United Kingdom after crossing the English Channel on Tuesday. The figure is the highest daily number so far this year and is just under the total in the whole of March 2020 when 187 people made a crossing. About 850 people have made a crossing so far this year compared to 338 in the same period in 2020. More than 8,438 people crossed the English Channel in about 635 boats in 2020. The government is planning to make it more difficult for asylum seekers to stay in the UK if they come illegally. Under new plans being set out by the government, people seeking protection as refugees will have their claim assessed based on how they arrive in the UK. Also, people who enter the UK illegally to claim asylum will no longer have the same entitlement as those who arrive legally. We'll go on a breakdown. Up next is business and sport. Just stay. You're welcome back. Sources say the Central Bank of Nigeria's Naira for Dollar scheme may have attracted about $40 million in foreign remittances in 1 week. Remittances through commercial banks have increased in response to the Naira for Dollar scheme, and last week the CBN received circa $40 million from remittances. This is up from about $6 million received before the policy was introduced. At this rate of $40 million a week, the CBN could attract about $160 million a month, or $1.9 billion yearly, higher than the estimated $1.1 billion received in 2020 from diaspora remittances. And Vice President Yemi Osinbajo has said during a virtual interactive session that Nigeria's post-COVID-19 priorities would be focusing on economic and health sustainability. He said these priorities would include restoration of economic growth in the immediate term, building of resilience in the health sector, and repositioning of the economy on a sustainable footing in the medium term. All this will be done while saving and building jobs, domestic capacity, and local production in critical areas. The Vice President assured that the Nigerian government's response to challenges brought about by COVID-19 are aimed at ensuring lasting socio-economic recovery and growth. For emphasis, he highlighted the significant impact of the Buhari administration's economic sustainability plan and the work being done by government to improve broadband connectivity and expand the country's national identity base as a way of aiding the country to respond to the negative effects of the pandemic. A 15-point agenda has been set by the leadership of the Nigerian Society of Engineers, Victoria Island branch, to enable the government at all levels develop the oil and gas sector. The agenda set in a communique issued at a symposium urged the government, professional bodies and non-governmental organizations to ensure social reorientation on citizens' mindset concerning infrastructure ownership. It must be viewed as a collective responsibility of government, citizens, investors, and users. And in sports, the national camp for the forthcoming Tokyo Olympics Games will be set in Edo State to allow contingents for the Games to take advantage of the world-class Samuel Ogbemudia Stadium, Benin City, and other facilities built by the Governor Godwin Obaseki-led administration for their preparations. Minister of Youth and Sport Development, Sunday Dare, disclosed this to journalists during a visit to Edo State ahead of the National Sport Festival, scheduled to take place in the state between April 2nd and 14th. Dare, who expressed satisfaction with the quality and standard of sporting facilities in the state, noted that the revamp of Samuel Ogbemudia Stadium and other facilities has raised bar for sport development for other states in Nigeria. He stated that Edo was the best place to host contingent for the Olympic Games, adding, "There is no better place to host Nigerian athletes for the Tokyo Olympic Games than Edo State. The state already has the facilities and the national camp will be set up in Edo State." And Everton midfielder Alex Iwobi is set against Benin Republic in the weekend's AFCON 2021 qualifiers in Port Novo. The former Arsenal striker said in Lagos yesterday that he was ready to play in any position assigned to him by coach Gernot Rohr. He is optimistic that the Eagles can record victory away against the visitors, while also looking forward to playing in Lagos when the Eagles welcome Lesotho to Lagos on March 30th. And that is TOS News Update on your digital First Pan-African News Network. For more updates, visit www.tostvnetwork.com. Do follow and like TOS TV Network on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And remember to subscribe on YouTube. Stay with us and enjoy more programs. I am Merciful Ajinomo. Thanks for watching.
But we as a continent are now